Okay, in this video I'm going to show you how to install Atom, the windowed text editor, and we're going to use that for our programming assignments. It's very useful. You could do a whole lot more with it than Nano, the text editor, in the terminal. Nano is good for quick edits, but if you're going to do any kind of serious programming, you need a real text editor that has lots of different plugins and different options. Okay, so we're going to install it here on Windows. I've got Windows running in a virtual machine here on top of my Linux desktop. So we're going to install it on Windows, and then I'm going to configure all the settings that I have specified on the course website. So on the course website, cs.indstate.edu/tilde-lma1, go to courses, go to your course, and then go down to tutorials, and there should be a section here labeled Atom Windowed Text Editor. Okay, at the top is all the shortcuts because you're going to use that the most. Down below is installation. Alright, so this is where this video is going to be, and I'm going to follow these notes on installation as we go through this. Okay, so back to Windows. We open up a web browser and go to https://atom.io. Alright, this is the home page for the Atom editor. We're going to download that. Wait a few moments. So what Atom is going to allow you to do is edit text files on your computer, and then you can use an FTP client like FileZilla to move them to the CS server whenever you complete the assignment. Right? But there is some configuration we need to set up. All right, so we've successfully downloaded this. We're using, our browser is Chrome, and you click on it to execute it. This is running in a virtual machine, so it's a little bit slow. So we'll wait for this to come up. Okay, so Atom is installing here. Again, this should go much quicker on your machines. Alright, well, let's go over some of the shortcuts while this is continuing to install. Alright, shortcuts are incredibly important when you have a text editor. In computer science, virtually every application you're going to use, you're going to need to get familiar with some shortcuts. So it's going to be good to get in the habit of shortcuts right now. Alright, so in Atom, you can copy and paste. Cut, copy, and paste. This is standard for most windowed applications. Control X cuts something to the clipboard. Cut is just like copy, except it deletes it as well. So you can copy it and then delete it, and that's the same as a cut. And if you want to paste it from the system clipboard, you use Control V. So cut is Control X, copy is Control C, and paste is Control V. Now you see on the keyboard, all those characters are right next to each other. At the bottom left of the keyboard, you have Z, X, C, V, right? So X, C, V are right next to each other. That's because they're used all the time. Control Z is usually undo. Alright, so those four at the bottom are used constantly in almost every application. Alright, we'll move into some of those later, the rest of them. We've installed Atom, and it's finally come up here. Atom is not currently set as the default handler for Atom URIs. We'll just click yes. Alright, so you start out and you've got telemetry consent. That just tells Atom you can send some usage data. It's anonymous and it helps Atom get better. Okay, so you can pick what you want here. I always pick yes. You have a welcome screen. We don't need to see this every time we log into Atom. Okay, so uncheck that, then close this box, and then there's this welcome guide. Alright, you can look through all this if you want. We're going to get right to our tutorial. Alright, so we go down to installation. So we need a line ending selector. In Windows, new line characters are represented by two characters. The carriage return, CR, and then a line feed. In Linux, a new line character is just one character. It's just the line feed. So for almost every application, the carriage return gets in the way. Alright, so in Atom Editor, there's a setting where you can change the line ending of the character. So let's go to File, New. Alright, and you see down here, File uses CRLF, Windows, line endings. Alright, whenever we edit a file, we always need to switch this to line feed. Okay, that is the standard for Linux and Mac. Windows understands it as well, so we need to make sure it is set. Okay, so it didn't adjust it until I pressed enter a couple times. Alright, so we have a new document here. What we want to do is we want to go to settings. So edit. Let's see. Settings there. So there's a shortcut for settings that I always use, Control comma. Alright, so under Atom you go File, Settings, or for the rest of this I'm just going to hit Control comma to go back to settings. Alright, Control comma, this opens the settings pane. You have these categories on the left. Okay, so these are the core settings for Atom. Now over here we're at step number 2, Settings Core. Okay, so these are, everything listed under here are for the core settings right here. And we only have a couple things. Alright, close deleted file tabs. We're going to make sure that's checked. Okay, so what this means is when a file is open and you're editing it, and then you open up the Window Explorer or the command line and you delete the file here, Atom automatically closes that tab. Okay, this is important because sometimes it can get confusing because you have a tab open for a file that doesn't exist anymore. Alright, so that one's easy. The next grouping of settings is Settings Editor. Okay, so that's over here. This is this next section of the settings menu. So what do we need to see here? Scroll past end. This allows the editor to scroll past the end of the last line of a file. This is helpful in just viewing things at the right level of your display. Okay, so we want to make sure scroll past end is checked. Okay, what else? Show invisibles. Invisibles are characters in your text file. They're like a tab file, or a tab character is an invisible, a space character is invisible, and so are new lines. Okay, so in Atom, if I have show invisibles checked, we go over here. When I type a space, it's very faint, but you can see little tiny dots. So that lets me know the difference between spaces and a tab character. Space, space, space. And when I press enter, Atom automatically deletes extra white space at the end of a line. Okay, so I have spaces and then 4 spaces here. When I press enter and then save it, it should automatically delete those white spaces. Okay, so I'll just save this to my desktop and call it test.txt. Alright, so when I saved it, it opened the folder that I saved it in, which is my desktop. Alright, so let's go back. We need to show invisibles so we can see those characters. That's helpful. They're very faint, so they don't really get in your way. Show indent guidelines. So we're going to be using Python mostly, and indents are very, very important in Python. They're core to Python and designating code blocks, sections of code. Alright, so the indentation is very, very important, so we're going to want to see the indent guides. Alright, so let's rename this file. Right click on the file and rename it to test.py. So Atom recognizes that as a Python file. Now you see, since I've named it a .py file, Atom automatically colorizes things to help you understand what's happening. Okay, it's very, very useful. And if I have a loop if true, print true. Now we see we've indented here. This is a code block. If this is true, which it is, we're putting an explicit true here, it's going to execute all of this code. Anything that's indented. Okay, so these two lines of code will execute only if what we have supplied to the if statement is true. And it definitely is, because we supplied it explicitly true. Alright, now you see the indentation here. There aren't any indent guides. So let's go back and show indentation guides. So click show indent guide. Control comma opens the settings menu. We're in editor, show indent guides. Alright, now we go back to test. And as I go down here, if I have two indentation levels, if false, okay, this code will never be run because what comes after the if statement is false. The code indented under an if statement only runs if this is true. But it gives us another code block, and we can see we have an indentation guide here, so we can see we're indented 2 levels. Right? That's what indentation guide does, and it's very helpful. Like I said, indentation in Python is huge. Alright, so let's go back and see what else we need. Show indent guides, Softrap. Alright, settings, Softrap. We want to check that. And then Softrap hanging indent, we want to make that 2. Alright? And so as soon as you edit this file, it automatically saves. You don't have to do anything in settings to save it. So what this has done is, let's make a comment that's really long in Python. This is a long comment. And copy and paste that a bunch of times. Now we see the width of this line is longer than the width of our editor. So what Softrap does is it indents 2 spaces to let you know, hey, this is still part of the last line. And we have line numbering here as well. So this is line 13. We see a dot here, which means this line is part of the last numbered line. So no matter how many times I paste, we're just going to have a dot. As soon as I hit enter, now we're on a new line, and we see this is line 14. Okay, so these are all helpful in navigating a file. It's very important in computer science to be able to navigate files well. Okay, so that's Softrap. Tabs length. So tabs have to do with indentation. Alright, so tabs length, the most common tab lengths are 2 and 4. 4 is my preferred tab length, and it's definitely easier when you're first getting started. Okay, so if you have a tab length of 4, then every time I hit the tab character, it's going to indent 4 spaces. So the tab character is its own ASCII character, but this editor automatically switches out the tab character for instead 4 ASCII spaces, and you see dot, 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 just like that. Okay, so that's what that does. Every time you indent, it's going to go, if you hit tab, it's going to add 4 spaces, which is very useful in Python. Okay, I can have a print statement under here, hello, and if I want to move that up to be under this false code block, I have to indent it to match the indentation level. If I hit tab, it just automatically indents. If I hit shift tab on a line, it unindents. So tab will indent, shift tab unindents. I can also highlight multiple lines and shift tab to unindent all of them, or tab to indent all of them. This is incredibly useful. It's something that you will probably need to master. Alright, so that's the tab length. Set it to 4. Now we're out of the editor area of the settings, and we're going to hit Control comma to go back to settings, and we need to go to packages. Packages are modules of Atom that we've installed. A lot of packages come installed by default, and we're going to install some external ones. Alright, but first, each of these packages have some settings we need to tweak. Okay, so packages, we need to tweak bracket matcher. Okay, so we go in here and we look at bracket matcher. Okay, bracket matcher. So right now, without doing anything with bracket matcher, if I type a parenthesis, another one gets created automatically. If I type a quotation mark, another one gets created automatically. I find this very annoying. Okay, some people like it. I'm going to turn it off. I always turn it off. So we go settings, and we need to look for autocomplete brackets. Uncheck autocomplete brackets. Okay, uncheck that. Alright, so we don't need to save or anything. What's the next package we need to edit? Whitespace package. Okay, so let's go back to packages, search for whitespace. Okay, this is the whitespace package. It's just one of the core packages that's installed by default. We're going to click settings, and what do we need to change here? Ignore whitespace on current line. I don't know why they added this, but when you save the file, if you have whitespace at the end of the line and you're on that line, it keeps it. Whereas if I'm off of the line and I hit save again, you see it's gone away. Alright, so it kind of just randomly adds whitespace on your file. So I always turn that one off too. Okay, so we need to uncheck ignore whitespace on current line. Okay, there we go. So it's done with whitespace, and then autocomplete plus. So we go back to settings, and we're still on packages, and we need to go to autocomplete plus. Actually, I think it's like this. There it is. Okay, autocomplete plus. Go into settings, and what do we need to change here? Adam has a feature to try to guess what you are typing. All right. So as I go through here, anything that I've already typed in this file, it's going to suggest that. So if I type com, you see there's some things in here. Comment is something I've already typed, and I can press down on the keyboard and the arrow key and press tab, and it fills it in. Okay. Now the problem is the default setting is if I don't want that, if I want to name something com, if I press enter, it automatically does something that I don't want it to do. Alright, so I'm going to try to show you how to disable that. So for Keymap for confirming a suggestion. Alright, Keymap for confirming a suggestion. We want tab always and enter when I've explicitly picked something with the arrow keys. Okay, so now over here if I type com, I can press enter and it does a new line instead of automatically selecting what I don't want. Okay, so if I type com, now I can use arrow keys and press enter, or I can always use tab to pick that one. So if I want this one, I just press tab, or I can press enter if I've explicitly selected it. Okay, so these should be the defaults in my opinion. I'm not sure why they're not. Okay, so that's the built-in packages, the settings on those, and then the rest of the things that we have to do are just installing additional features. Okay, Atom is a modular text editor, which means there's lots of different modules or code that can be added to Atom to make it more functional. Alright, so these are external packages that you can install. Alright, so let's go to, from settings menu, we go down to install. Alright, and we need to search for each of these packages. This one is language JSON 5. What this does is syntax highlighting for JSON 5. JSON 5 is the format that your homeworks and labs are graded in, or at least your homeworks. Alright, so you'll need to view this. It'll colorize things. Kind of like here in Python, language-python is installed by default on Atom. Okay, so it does the coloring here. The syntax highlighting is what this is called. Alright, so this is very helpful to navigate a text file, especially a computer-generated file. Right, JSON 5, it does syntax highlighting and stuff like that for you. Okay, so you install language-JSON 5. Install that one. The next one are file icons. Okay, so over here we have icons that are just files by default on Atom. If we install the file icons package, each one of these will have a different color and shape depending on what type of file it is. It's helpful for identifying different types of files in your Atom editor. Okay, so let's go to file icons, file -icons. There we go. Is that hyphenated? Yes. Okay, install that one. Schmod. It stands for change mode, and it allows you to change the access mode of different files, just like you can with the chmod command from the Linux command line. You won't use this initially, but as you get further along in computer science, you're definitely going to be using chmod a lot. Alright, so we'll go ahead and install this package. So it allows you to make a file executable if you want, or it gives you access to the permissions of who can read it and who can write to it and who can execute it. Alright, pigments. This one is a nice one. Okay, I'll show you what that one does once it installs. We're going to need to create... Oh, see here we see the file icons has already installed, and we can see this is a Python file. That's the Python logo. INI files are configuration files, so you've got little sliders here. Links, this is a shortcut for the links. So you can quickly at a glance just look at the icons instead of looking at what everything is named. Okay, so it's a very useful package. Now let's add a JavaScript file real quick. Test.js. Okay, and I can do actually I need an HTML file. Rename. Okay, so I can make a quick HTML file, and I can say make a style tag. Okay, and when I type in pound, I can make a color with 2 digits of red hexadecimal characters, 2 digits of blue hexadecimal characters, or green hexadecimal characters, and then blue. So RGB, red, green, and blue. So this is red, red, green, green, and blue, blue. Okay, so I can add hexadecimal characters here. That's the characters 0 through 9, and then A through F. So if I want the color white, FF, FF, FF. Now what Pigments does, here in a second, once it installs or finishes installing, there, it shows you the color of what you have typed. Alright, if I want a different color, if I want red, that's going to be full red, 0 green, and 0 blue. Alright, and then it shows you what color that is. Okay, and you can mix and match, add random characters here. And then it'll show you what the color is. Normally it does this much faster. Right. So that's what Pigments does. Okay, go back here. Pretty JSON is for formatting JSON files. Just install it. You'll need it. Pretty JSON. Install. Treeview AutoResize. This adjusts your tree view. So here we only need this size of a tree view to see all of our items, but instead it's taking up a lot of our real estate, our screen real estate. Okay, so it automatically resizes it. Okay, so this is Treeview AutoResize. Oops, this is the wrong one. I want this one. Install that one. I might have to go back and uninstall this one. So those will be in packages. Everything that you've installed will be in packages here. Okay, so now it's installed, and now I have the option to uninstall it. And now I'm currently installing the correct one, Treeview AutoResize. This is how many people have downloaded that package, so that can tell you about how stable it is. If there's been thousands of downloads, then it's fairly stable package. Okay, this one only 300 some people have used, so it might not be that stable. It might be great, but you take a risk. Alright, now we go into the Minimap. The Minimap is a very useful tool. Minimap. Install. This one has 5 million 5.5 million. So this one's very, very common. So the Minimap is basically on the side of your file. If I have, let's copy and paste this a whole bunch of times. I have a very long file here, and I scroll up and down. As soon as the Minimap package gets installed, we're going to have a miniature version of the entire file over here on the right. Okay, we're done with test.html. Minimap's installed, and here. And you can see it kind of shows you the coloring and what's going on in your file, so you can jump to the right place over here. And you can see the entirety, a very long version of your file over here on the right. It's very useful. So all of these plugins over here have to do with the Minimap. Okay, so Minimap Find and Replace. When you search for something, it gets highlighted, so it'll show you that highlight in the Minimap as well. Minimap Linter. Linting code is a way for the computer to run a scan on your code and see if you have any mistakes before you try to run it. Linting is very nice, and as you type things, it'll give you advice on what to type. Alright, so this is very handy, and Minimap Linter just puts any of the Linter stuff in the Minimap as well. So we'll install that. We'll get to linters next. There's a whole section on that depending on what language you're using. But linters just clean up your code and give you advice on how to code. Alright, so we need Minimap selection, whatever you've highlighted. So it has a dependency. It needs us to install Linter, which is next on the list, and we haven't done that yet. We need Minimap selection. Minimap selection, install Minimap pigments. And so with Minimap pigments, any of the pigment stuff that you see in the main file also shows up on your Minimap. So we'll install that. And now we're back down to linters. Okay, so for Python, you're going to want to install, first you install Linter, then you install Linter-pyflakes. That's a Linter for Python. If you're doing CSS development, which ties into web programming, you'll need Linter-CSS. If you want JavaScript linting, I recommend ESLint. And if you want HTML linting, Linter HTML lint. And then this is for bash scripting if you decide you want to do some linting of your bash scripts. So we're just going to install Linter pyflakes. Well, we might as well install them all. Linter pyflakes. Then we're going to need to install Linter CSS lint. Install Linter HTML lint. Install and Linter ECMAScript lint, ESLint. ECMAScript is the standard by which JavaScript is implemented. Okay, so ECMAScript is a more generic name for JavaScript. It's the standard that JavaScript uses. All right, so ESLint uses the rules of ECMAScript to lint your JavaScript to give you hints about it. All right, and then Linter shell check. Oops. Okay, we're going to install that. So there's one more thing you have to do for the Linter to work, at least on Python. You're going to need to install, you're going to use open your terminal window, and you're going to need to use pip3, which is a package manager for Python. It lets you install additional libraries and tools for Python. Okay, I don't think we have that installed right now on our Cygwin or Cygwin right here. So you'll have to run the setup file again with Cygwin. So wherever you downloaded the setup file, navigate to that. So that should be in this PC. C. Cygwin, and then the setup file. That's where I put mine. So make sure you save the setup file. It's designed to be run multiple times. Okay, so it can't find the linter file right now, so that's what we're doing. We're installing the package that allows us to lint. So we run the setup file for Cygwin. I keep saying that wrong. And we need to install pip3. Pip3 is the Python package manager for Python 3. There's also pip, which is for Python 2. So we want to install, we'll probably just go ahead and install both. Okay, so just do the next install from the internet. Probably all users or just me, it depends on what you want to set up. Just go with the defaults and it'll download and install. Let's go next. Waiting for this to go. There we go. So we need to look at packages. We want to search for pip3. Python 3.8 pip. Let's see what version of Python we have installed. Minimize that. Open up Cygwin and say Python 3 -- version. So we've got 3.6 installed, so that's what we need to install, that version of pip. So we need to go back and open the installer, Python 3.6 pip. We're going to install the latest one, right? And then say next, next. Now the linter isn't required, but it does offer you some helpful hints. As you type code, it'll tell you if you've done something wrong. So this is kind of a process, but I highly recommend you guys do it because, especially learning Python, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and if you have the linter there helping you along the way, it's very useful. Okay, and again, this should all go much faster on your computer. This is a virtual machine, so it's a little bit slow. It's really the disk reads and writes for some reason on this virtual machine are going really slowly. Okay, so we're almost done with this, but basically when pip gets done, from the command line you can say pip3 install pyflakes and execute that, and as soon as that runs and executes, then you'll have your linter installed and it should just work with Python. Or it should just work with the Atom linter, I mean. Okay, so that's installed now. Let's see if this works. Pip3 install pyflakes. There, now we've installed it. So now I might have to restart this, we'll see. But if I yeah, I think I have to restart Atom. So we'll close Atom and restart, and then go run it again. I think that has to do with that error message. Okay, so you might have to do a little debugging of this, how to set up pyflakes, and in class I'll give you some examples, or if you need any help, email me. There's probably some small setting that we're missing here to get pyflakes going, but again, you don't need it. Okay, so we'll start with this, and this is just the basics of getting Atom set up for the basic settings that you need. The linter is kind of advanced. Okay, so that should be enough for this video. And remember, when you have a file like this, always make sure down here, this is probably the most important thing, always make sure you're using a line feed ending. Okay, and there we go. That's how you use or set up Atom for installation.